Whoa. Gee, you know, I can't even blame the computer on anyone else if it doesn't work. So this is, I have to say, you know, Tom, you make an excellent Twitter output device. That's fantastic. I'm sure it's going to catch on. And Dave Kearns, my favorite American. And he actually knows about Canada. It's fantastic. Reminds me, in Canada we used to have, you know, a problem back in the age of Vive le Québec libre, around separation. And, you know, the people in Quebec would animate their discussion and would basically go, well, this is the viewpoint from Quebec, and that's the viewpoint from the rest of Canada. Quebec, the rest of Canada. So finally it got to the point where we all used to call ourselves, we would say, well, we're from the ROC. Are you from Quebec or are you from the ROC? The ROC is the rest of Canada, of course. So I guess, you know, we'll ultimately get there where, are you from the EU or are you from the ROW? Anyway, okay. What I'm going to do is, I know a lot of you know about claims, and so I've tried to structure this so that I disappoint everyone as little as possible. But I'm going to, I know some of you also probably would like to hear about them, and my own view of what they are has evolved since I spoke to you last. So even if you know what claims are, I'm hoping that I won't bore you too much if I can sort of talk about the shift in the perception a bit. And then I want to talk about what kind of progress we're making or not making. And finally, look a little bit at some of the futures that are really exciting me, and where we're at right today. So I guess one of the ahas I've had is that there are two big problems and they have one answer. And the two big problems are for completely different audiences, and the audiences don't normally speak to each other. One of them being the application development audience, and one being the IT architecture and deployment audience. So the development, I think everybody here understands the point of view of the IT architect. And you know, you look at things and you say, gee, how do I get those pesky applications to actually fit into some kind of a architectural framework so that I can, you know, manage my systems and achieve compliance. But from the other point of view, from the application development point of view, the fact is that there is basic pandemonium around identity. It's impossible for those people to develop applications in ways that are going to satisfy all of the people who want to deploy them. And, you know, I have one of my friends who he works on a big application at Microsoft, and one day he just came into my office. He said, "Kim, you have to save me. You know, uncle," because he had gone through so many different things, from passwords to Kerberos to public key and so on. And basically, what the claims thing is all about is providing an answer to both sides of this equation. So, without claims, as I said, applications ultimately find that they're limited to very specific audiences, or they're under pressure always from their customers to add more and more capabilities. So, we've come up with the claims-based model, and I'm not going to go into it here today because I know that it's going to be explored in other sessions and so on. I'll just do the very, very high level, which is, it's a different paradigm than we've had because the subject goes to the application expresses a policy in terms of what kind of claims it needs, where claims are things that are said by one party about another party. And the subject, through some mechanism or other, flap, flap, is able to go to a claims provider and pick up the necessary claims. Some of these mechanisms are elegant, some of these mechanisms are ugly, some of these mechanisms are safer, some of these mechanisms are dangerous, etc. But that is the basic model. And what's involved here is not just an ID. So it's not like I'm going and picking up my ID number. And I think if we were here 5 years ago, everybody would be talking about IDs. No, it's not the ID. It's what's necessary for that application to personalize. What's necessary for that application to associate you with the right resource or grant you the right kind of access. And what's really clear here is that the claims provider and the application and the subject are all in a relationship. So, an application isn't going to accept claims made by any old Tom, Dick, and Harry. Well, some will. If you're trying to garner new customers, you might be pretty well willing to accept anything until you get to the point where something is on the table. But in general, you require a trusted environment. So what this leads to is something immensely practical, something simplifying and privacy enhancing. It provides an abstraction so that the app developers see just one identity interface and they can easily write their program. Yet the IT pros get to define what goes underneath it. So you have a clear separation there. The application developer writes to the simple interface. The IT pro can put anything under the interface that makes sense in their environment. So it's actually a paradigm that replaces single sign-on. It isn't a form of single sign-on, because we're moving from sign-on in the sense of an ID to a full fidelity set of claims that could be the communication of what roles you're in, what attributes you have, and so on. And I'll come back and give you some interesting examples of this at the end of the presentation. And so once you've gone from sort of basically moved up a level, and so you're no longer down in the goo of the identity management problem. You're up at the not at the policy level. I don't want to get confused with policy, but the higher level of the meaning of things. Okay, these are the claims. And so that's what allows you to move across administrative boundaries. If I have an ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 within my environment, and now I go to your environment, the fact that I have an ID of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 doesn't mean anything to you. If I have a claim that says I'm a Canadian and I go to your environment, and for some reason you wanted to know where I'm from, maybe so you could, adjust your jokes and improve them somewhat over the ones I'm able to deliver, then, that's a claim, and I can give you that claim. You can function accordingly. So the ID is much more domain-oriented and fixed towards the interior of the operation of systems than the claims are. I'll give you a good example, which happens in the cloud, and there's, Ariel Gordon is going to be here speaking about even a better example than this, so I'd catch his session. But I'll take the example of an expense report app and say, what does it involve? We all know the cloud is the next thing. It's all, what is it exactly? Well, everybody has a different description, but we know there's a lot of computer power in the sky, blah, blah, blah. We take our expense report app and we're going to start running it in the cloud rather than running it in our enterprise. So, the scenario is employees fill out their expense reports, and then those are sent to their managers and they're billed to their business units. So in the on-premise solution, we buy a solution from one of the ISVs, and it leverages all of the enterprise systems, the directory, probably some of the human resources systems, and it's able to, reach its fingers into all of the other parts of the enterprise spaghetti. As IT architects, we don't like that too much, but that's the way it works. But what happens when you move it into the cloud? So the service provider now runs the expense reporting operation in the cloud, and I want to send in my expense reports, and let's say I have single sign-on, right? I can authenticate and I can say, prove that I'm Cameron